Indiana Jones. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we put the film Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull on indefinite leave, 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Green and Green Mummert.
Gerald Christopher Mocha Mulate Porter. Yeah, you can feed the cat that.
Yeah. Sully, go ahead and feed the cat.
Yeah.
Paul Sullivan, our guest once again this week.
Host of Locked On MLB and lover of 3/4 of the Indiana Jones movies.
Beautiful. Welcome back.
Yeah, here I am.
We're glad you could be here for what I'm sure is part of that 3/4, right?
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. This. We'll just get into it. I have some thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. I have too many thoughts, but let's get on to the minutia. Was he? Oh my God! Look, he's holding the glass the wrong way, or whatever. Look at. Or what are these trophies?
I don't think
what
they
are
had
the,
those kinds
what
of
are the
glasses in
trophies
1954.
behind Indy as he's talking to Jim Broadbent in the hallway and everything?
It's what we do.
Yeah.
God bless us. Anyway, this is minute 27. That's what we're going to get all minutia about. It begins with Indy doubting that Stanforth had to go through that much.
Who?
And Stanford, what did I say? Stanford?
Stanford.
Broadbent.
That's
Stanford.
Broadbent.
Jim Broadbent.
Yeah.
It begins with Indy doubting that Jim Broadbent had to go through that much, and it ends at Indy's home with Jim Broadbent telling Indy that he has reason to question his friends these days.
Well, as has been noted a few times, at second 2, if we look in the case behind Indy, and I'm wondering, if Indiana Jones had his way, would the final resting place for the Ark of the Covenant be next to those rugby trophies?
No.
That's where this is?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's the archaeology building. Are those trophies from like the very first
Olympic Games.
Yeah, which is like 776 BC.
The first.
I actually looked that
The
up.
first bowling trophies ever, right there from.
Yep.
I know this is, okay. Jerry's been making this joke for 4 movies now. I will say one more time that Marcus worked for the National Museum, and that is the museum they were talking about putting the Ark of the Covenant in. They were never going to put it in the hallway in Marshall College in Podunk, Connecticut.
I think, Marcus worked for the National 4th Floor Geology Museum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's what's so weird. He works for the museum, except he works for the university.
No, in Raiders, you were. Oh, forget it. God, I hate
I
this show.
know.
It's so boring.
I know.
Speaking
Hey,
of
well,
people
listen,
being
hey.
jerks, I'm not a fan of this jerky Indy here. Like, he just seems incredibly
What did you have to give up,
mean-spirited.
Charlie?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to something that I have some major philosophical issues with this minute we're going to have here. But I had mentioned in the minute, not the previous one, but the one before, where the general lawyer and the FBI agents were there for their only scenes in the movie. And they're just throwing a lot of characters at us and going, why should we care? I can't think of a more why should I care moment than Jim Broadbent, who we've known for less than a minute. And I know that because we're doing a minute-by-minute podcast of this on the subject here. And he has this dramatic, I resigned, with a zoom, with like a truck in and
Not Stanforth.
yeah, not person I don't know. And in fact, the only thing I do know about him is that Indy thinks he's unwelcomed in his classroom. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that he has an argument with him in the hallway, of which he appears to be an antagonist to Indy. So it's like all I know about him, other than the fact that he's played by a fine actor, is that he's someone who Indy doesn't like and is making Indy's life bad, and doesn't even call him Indy. He calls him Henry, which really pisses me off.
He's not
And
one of the cool
Yeah.
kids.
so he doesn't even understand that he's talking to Indiana Jones, and he's in an Indiana Jones movie, for God's sakes. And then he says, I resign. It's like, okay, fine. And you are? Why do I care? What is it? Why?
Yeah.
And that's the dramatic moment that we end this scene on, is a man who we don't know. And I think is only in 2 more scenes the rest of the movie. Oh,
Yeah,
he
if that.
resigned.
Yeah.
You know, I hope it.
See, I like that remark. I don't think it was a
You
powerful
are
scene, but I think
God, the glass is not half full. The glass is overflowing. My God. Can't you hate something that sucks? Can't you just hate something that
I've
sucks?
hated plenty of things, but I liked
Yeah.
it.
We did. That's
This kind of
okay.
puts Indy in his
this
place.
scene. Oh yeah,
Like Indy, no, I don't. Indy's been a real mean-spirited guy in this, and all of a sudden, Indy's, you know,
I love
Indy's
you,
a
Pete.
jerk.
Pete, I love you. You know I love you, but Jesus
Well,
Christ.
why does Dean Charlie have to resign here? Like, see, that's what's so strange about this. Did he go to? Am I supposed to think that he went to the wall for Indy, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, we want him fired," and he's like, "No, you know, you're going to have to pay him for this indefinite leave."
Yeah.
Was that the thing? And then they're like, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to pay him, but we're not going to like it. And we need your resignation now. And he's
Yeah, I
like,
don't get that at
Indy's
all.
such a great guy that I'll do it.
If you really want us to pay his, salary while he's on leave, I mean, we can't pay him and you, so you would have to quit, I guess. And
No, see, I think he stood up for Indy, and then he was so disgusted with his whole process, he resigned.
but what is that? But he says you don't know what I had to go through to get you your full pay while you're on
That's true. He
indefinite
makes it
leave.
sound like it's contingent
Yeah.
upon
He
his
says like,
resignation.
"Hey, if you
Yeah.
pay Indy, I'll quit." And they're like, I guess, okay." That's fine. I mean, I don't know what sense that makes, but sure,
Yeah.
knock yourself out. The
Yeah,
Board of
I-
Regents
Yeah.
has spoken.
I don't know. I don't care. I don't
and it's
care. I
strange
don't
'cause-
care.
The only reason you care is because there's violins. in
Yeah,
there.
they play the
Oh,
Brady
they
Bunch.
are.
And there's a close up.
Yeah.
It does a close up. And I guess it's supposed to. I guess it's just more. We find out more about Indiana Jones 20 years later, which is he's highly esteemed. Even though he's under the microscope, like the dean of the university is willing to resign because Indiana Jones, character has been impugned, and he's not. I guess that's what I gather.
Unless the dean has been helping Indy with his looting, and he figures if he resigns, they're going to ask fewer questions of the dean.
My problem is that this is a character we just met, and the only thing we know about him is we don't like him. And so that suddenly it's like, I resign. Good, get out of here. Like, I mean, you deserve it.
I think it's supposed to also play into, and we see later in this minute, he says something like, when the Red Scare comes to academia, we know we're all in trouble.
Mhm.
And so I think this line probably is tied into that. Like maybe this dude is on the fence. It's tumultuous times. And he, maybe he was thinking of getting out anyway. And he's just like, you know what? If you guys are going to malign Indiana Jones,
Henry Jones.
and he's under
Henry
scrutiny.
Jones.
Henry Jones.
Henry
Jones.
Jones. Yes,
Yeah.
Henry Jones. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just sort of the climate.
It's
You know?
exactly like Mac so far. It's like we don't know who Mac is, so that when he
Yeah.
holds a gun on Indy, all of a sudden we're like, oh no, not Mac. And
That-
so,
that's-
here we meet Jim Broadbent. We're like, oh, he's at odds with Indy. Oh no, he's actually True Blue. He stood by Indy.
That's
so now we like
that's
him.
a great
I guess,
point.
and I
That
feel good about
the
that.
twist with Mac came when we were still trying to figure out who the hell he was, and the twist here
Yeah.
with Jim Broadbent, I don't even know his name, is while we're still meeting him, it's like no, these characters
Mm-hmm.
haven't earned that moment. Neither one of those characters
Yeah.
earned that moment. Of oh my God, not Mac. Mac turned on Indy. Remind me who Mac is. And oh
Say it
no,
ain't so.
Charlie, you had to resign. Are you Charlie? What are you? What am I? Are we around? Am I alive? What's happening? I'm bored.
It's almost like they wanted them to have an argument in this scene, but they still had to be buddies in
Yeah.
the next scene, so they had to do something
Yeah,
dramatic
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
To, like,
Well, what's
actually make
strange
it a
is
twist.
this guy is Marcus. That's who
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about him is Marcus.
It would have been Marcus if Denham Elliott were alive. I'm fairly certain that
Yeah.
he would have just had Marcus.
But then he wouldn't have that argument with Marcus, would he?
No, but Marcus would have like gone to the mat for him.
Well, Marcus would have waited until he finished
Yeah.
the class before he interrupted.
It's true.
I don't know.
Yeah,
And then
class.
it goes into the next scene. Well, first of all, the house, is that the same house that Marcus visited in?
No. This house is in
that. By the way, that bachelor pad is
Way too big.
huge.
That's a lot of house for a single professor.
You know where that house is, right, Jer?
Oh, wait a minute! Don't tell me! I'm going to look at it right now. I'm looking at
One of the
it
most
right
beautiful
now.
streets in the country.
Bridgeport, Connecticut.
You know
No.
who was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut? All of my relatives. My mother, my father.
Hey!
I used to think life emanated from Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Some say it does.
I'll give you a hint, Jer.
Just- Yeah.
This is about 4 blocks down from maybe the most beautiful house in the United States.
Oh, what? Wow. I'm going. Well, Hearst Castle? No, they don't have blocks there. Where is that?
Downton
It's
Abbey?
Bradford Street in Pasadena. It's just down from the Gamble
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that's in Pasadena.
I'm
Wow,
gonna be-
that's a
I'm gonna be in-
beautiful house.
I'm
going
going to
to
be in
drive
Pasadena
by.
tomorrow. I'll swing on by. See,
Yeah, 476 Bradford Street.
Well, what I need to know, or what I, is what I don't need to know, but clearly happened, is Indy kept us on Carstone. I mean, how does he afford this?
Yeah.
According to Zillow, this house has 5,000 square feet, 7 bedrooms, and 3
which a
bathrooms.
bachelor does not need.
Why?
Yeah.
Yes,
maybe
Yeah.
it's not
7
his house.
bedrooms.
Maybe he just lives in like the guest house.
Maybe
or
Short
something.
Round is there.
Did Willie live here for a while? Yeah, did Willie and Short Round lived here for a while?
Maybe.
But you know what? I think if Indy has if there's 7 bedrooms in this house,
Uh-huh.
I bet that one is Indy's and the 6 belong to like 6 other women from Adventures.
And they don't know about each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why it's
They
so
just-
big. Yeah.
there's like a
They're all their
Marion,
own
there's a
way.
Willie, there's
Yeah.
an Elsa, there's a
He went
Yeah.
back. He went back to
Oh, yeah.
the canyon of the crescent moon and found Elsa was just hanging around in the. She didn't die. She just fell into the.
Yeah.
And she's
yeah.
just chilling with the Grail Knight and like
Yeah.
I think it's only about 10 feet deep.
Yeah.
Well, so where did Indy get the loot?
he
I
never
don't know.
That's a lot of loot.
bought the ticket to Marrakesh. So that was
That's right. He saved that.
I mean, Pete, that house, I don't know, but if you're on Zillow, I bet that house is worth $8
Now.
million.
It's not as much as I
$12
thought.
million?
Redfin estimate is 3.4 million. I think
but
that's low.
that's
but-
now.
Hmm.
And keep in
Yeah.
mind this was in
Yeah.
this is supposedly like in Stratford, Connecticut or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how he paid for it, that's like 4 times as much house as he would need. It's
Yeah.
a little silly.
It's
Yeah.
like 10
like
times
it's pretty,
as much
but
house.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's supposed to show you that Indy has done well for himself.
Yeah.
He's highly esteemed at the university, and this is where he lives, and he's settling into his golden years. He's stolen enough gold. That's why
Yeah.
there's golden years.
I mean, he could have like made some deal at some point with some shady dude or something, some museum.
there's
thing.
a
I
lot
don't
of
know.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff.
It's weird though. It doesn't. I mean, I get him not living in the same house, especially since he moved to Barnett and then moved back. But I don't know. I don't like him having this big
No, it
fat
makes no
house.
sense.
It's silly.
It's also like gorgeously decorated, and this does not seem like something Indy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine Indy sitting around decorating like this.
Although I will say, like, you see him folding his shirt, and he did not fold his shirt when he was packing, when he was talking to Marcus and Raiders. He's just like chucking stuff into the thing. So he's like a different guy. He's like matured.
That was my
He's
note.
got, yeah.
But then two seconds later, he wads up a bunch of stuff from the closet and stuffs it on top of the shirt.
That's actually true. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, my favorite thing about this scene is that Indy's packing his undies, and I really just wanted to hear him say, besides, you know what a cautious man I am.
Hey, vey.
Oh, you know what I do like? He mentions he's like, yeah, maybe I'll teach in Germany or something. Heinrich, he owes me a favor. And I love, I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's a comic book that's all about Heinrich or something. But right now, sitting here watching the movie, I'm loving that I have no idea who Heinrich is.
Yeah.
He's just this guy.
Yeah.
Except I'm going to call on Pete
God.
Mummert. Pete Mummert. What is weird about this? And we don't just gloss over this. He doesn't say Germany. He says Leipzig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where is Leipzig?
Oh yeah, it's in East Germany.
East Germany,
Yeah,
which is
right.
communist.
Yeah, that's a very good.
So
point.
Heinrich.
Yeah.
So now Indiana Jones is going to go where a guy owes him a favor. He's literally being watched and scrutinized by these agents, the government, the university. He's fired.
That's his middle finger to the feds. He's like thumbing his nose at them.
Yeah, he helped the Soviets, and he's going to Leipzig now. He's going to a communist place.
So maybe Heinrich is actually Mac's handler, and so since he got Mac out, since he helped Mac find the stuff, maybe that's why Heinrich goes in the favor.
I can write for Pravda. I can go buy a house in Moscow.
Yeah, he's like, now that the agents are watching me, I think I'm going to go to Stalingrad.
Can I just say, apropos of a little something, one of my very favorite things about doing this podcast is this podcast was actually mentioned in TASS, the old Soviet national.
What?
Oh yeah.
What
the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
There was an article in
ago.
TASS about the fever dream theory in the podcast. Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
So now we're on a list.
Yeah.
No, we're on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's a very, very strange choice, though. He's going to go to Leipzig.
I didn't even catch that.
Okay. Yeah.
See, I honestly don't know if like anybody who was working on the screenplay was like, "Oh, this is clever," or if they just like threw a dart at a map of Germany.
I think in that one, it's so random that like he could say like,
maybe it's random. Like
but he'd be like, I'm going to go to Billings.
Yeah.
Paul owes me a favor. Anywhere. I'm going to go to Beirut.
Yeah.
I'm going to go like anywhere. He's going to a communist place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe it's a joke. Like he doesn't say I am on my way to Germany. He says I'm heading to London. Maybe I'll end up in Leipzig, and maybe I'll teach there.
He said, I'm going to take the overnight train to London.
Yeah,
for starters. Yeah,
for starters.
So he doesn't really like. He's going to London. That's all he knows.
In Leipzig, Heinrich owes me a favor.
That could just be like, oh, those FBI jerks. I'll show them. I'll go. Teach Lenin.
But it's really, really funny in the in the movie.
Yeah,
you're like the agents are onto something. This dude in the Eastern Bloc actually owes India a favor.
Yeah, yeah,
that's funny.
That's great.
I mean, it would be funny if it made sense.
Yeah,
like his actions in the first half of first part of the movie already don't bear that up. Which is almost too bad. It'd be fun if he was a commie.
Nothing.
Did you guys see
a double agent?
The photo of Sean Connery and River Phoenix on the little table next to the telephone?
Oh, really? No.
It's like they photoshopped picture of these old timey picture with Sean Connery and River Phoenix in it.
Wow.
Oh, that's
cool. They have the picture of Denholm Elliott taken during the scene just before he meets Sala. I don't know who took that picture.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's why that doesn't work. Well, that's in the next minute, I think. Yeah. But
I've got it, as Tom would say, I've got an excellent question, or as Jerry would say too.
We all have excellent questions, Pete.
Why the hell is Indy making the dean of the college pack up his stuff and send it to him?
That's awesome. That's like, because that's what he does with these characters. He did the same thing with Marcus. He's like, oh yeah, get me a ticket to Venice, and I'll have the meatloaf on the flight, and yeah, do what you, yeah.
And, you know, last time there was still ring around the bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, see if you can clean
Jim
that
Broadbent's
up.
like, oh, can I send your other things along, Indy? Thanks. I can't wait. This is gonna be awesome.
Like, what? You're out of a job. You're out of a job. I wondered if Charlie's resigned. And I'm looking, his bow tie is untied. Is that just it for him? That bow tie is never going to be tied ever again.
No, he's the guy that wear a bow tie everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like Tom. He'll wear that bow tie with shorts.
Can I make a
He'll
point
wear that,
here that
Classy.
there's a couple things that really don't work in this scene, and that
Get
is
out
that
of here.
we
Stop it,
have
Sully.
the transition of he's an antagonist and then suddenly he's his best buddy, which is not the relationship we saw in the hallway there at all. So it's that
Right,
transition
right.
is just
Right.
is crap. And when I rewatched this film, I did watch it beginning to end, and God, there was so much I didn't remember from the one time I saw it back in 2008. And there was an opportunity here to do something that would have made the rest of the film work, and that is to have this scene and this interaction with John Hurt's character, because we only see him
Oh my God.
when we are introduced to him. He's already batshit crazy, and we never see him as anything but a long-haired idiot. And if we had a scene where he's established as Indy's peer, someone who studied with him and everything like that, having that scene with him, and then the next time you see him, he's in the South American jungle possessed by the skull, that would have been a startling scene. Instead, it's, hey, there's John Hurt acting weird. I don't know why. Playing yet another character we don't know and haven't cared about. And there was I mean, look at, I mean, there's a lot of problem, but that could have at least made his character more interesting and give you a reason to care about him instead of him just be this vague person that when we see, he's like, oh, this guy's crazy. We don't even know who he is. And imagine instead you had a nice scene. I mean, again, Jim Broadbent's a fine actor and he does his best in this scene. But if you had a moment where we got to know and be introduced to John Hurt's character, granted it would be yet another character thrown at our face, but at least that would have paid off later on when they get to South America. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, that's yeah.
You know though
They need
that
something.
the dean is a good friend if he's going to pack up 5,000 square feet of stuff.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee all your china is going to make it in one piece, but I'll do it, Indy, because you've been so good to me. You're such a good friend. You don't yell at me in front of the students or anything.
Do you think the piano is proof that Willie lived here for a while? Because I can't picture Indy playing the piano.
Wow. I had a question about that. What piece is up there? I was wondering if he has Marian's theme.
Wait a
Yeah.
but
Leia's
we
theme.
do know he played the saxophone.
That's true. Well, tenor saxophone.
The only other time Harrison Ford played the role, he has a beard and is playing a saxophone in a cabin from the Hateful Eight. You know,
Played the banister that one time.
I think it's just to show that Indy is cultured and he's in a very comfortable place in his life.
Yeah.
So he has the piano. He might not even
really
play
don't
the
get it.
piano.
maybe he
It's
lives.
not
Maybe he
his
lives
house.
with
He's
Jim
packing somebody
Broadbent.
else's
He probably
underwear.
At Jim
yeah.
Broadbent's place, and he's.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta quit. What if that's Belloc's house
Nah.
and he just moved in?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, his brain exploded.
Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
That actually makes total sense. The Jim Broadbent. I'm going to say that this is Jim Broadbent's house, and Indy lives on like one floor or one section or something.
Oh,
Wow.
that
That's
makes
the only
sense
way
why
this
he
makes
packs up
sense
for
to
him.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why he's
Yeah.
like, you can pack up my things. So like Indy, maybe this little room here, kind of adjacent to the living room, is Indy's room.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a massive B&B.
Yeah.
Did you recognize the from Professor Demand's class, Jared? Did you recognize the bust in the living room?
Oh no.
I think it's Herodotus.
Is it?
It looks like
that's awesome.
which kind of makes sense for Indy or
Yeah.
You know,
maybe
it's
Broadway.
funny. When
All
I
busts
when
look
I
the same to
rewatched
me.
this movie last week, the next minute when he's looking at the picture of Marcus and his father, granted, those would not be the types of pictures that would be in the frame, you know, stills from the production of Last Crusade. But that being
Right.
that being
Got the
said,
full
that
set.
was one of the few moments when I rewatched the film that I had any sort of like felt like, oh, that's a nice moment. Like he's looking at his dad, and that there was like, yeah, he's this is a film about, you know, he's getting older, and you know, there was an emotional, oh, Marcus died, and his dad died because Sean Connery's retired from making movies. They asked him to be in the film, and he said no. And and so that, I mean, that was one of the few moments. I'm trying to be positive because I've been crapping all over the film. That was one of the few. That was one of the few moments
Beautiful.
where I was like,
You're
oh,
doing
that was
great.
kind of nice. You know, I mean, we're
Well, I'm going to jump in with something negative then, Sully. You gave me permission.
Hooray!
How's your Indilibrium there, Jer, with the Indy wearing his Oxford shirt and tan trousers?
Yeah, that's a little.
He doesn't look anything
presumed
like Indiana
indelibi-
Jones.
No,
It's just like
yeah,
Harrison
it's presumed
Ford
innocent.
in a movie.
Well, now
Yeah.
why is that different from any Professor Jones scenes, even from Raiders?
Because those have that, I don't know, those. It's a look we were brought up with. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Seeing, like, this just looks like a...
Yeah. No, I'm with you. He doesn't.
There are little bits that make him an older guy, like an older,
Yeah.
different guy in a different part of
Yeah.
his life, which I think is, you know, they need to do that. And I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
mind that, really.
I mean, I agree with both of you. Pete, my Indilibrium's off because it looks weird, and he looks like it's presumed innocent or the fugitive or something like
I bet
that.
he's wearing black Reeboks, too.
No, Skechers. He's got Skechers on.
Yeah.
No, but I agree with you, Tommy, that they are trying to show that here's a guy, it's 20 years later, he's in a different part of his life. I think the hardest thing for me to swallow is actually the military career.
Yeah, that is...
Of all these
that's the
things,
thing
yeah.
for me, too.
I get that, you know, it's cool as students are no longer flirting with them. That's great. The military career is a little strange. I understand he pocketed all sorts of, you know, Chachapoyan idols, and you know, he probably snapped off an Anubis head and sold it in Marrakesh.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
could be his house.
You know, it's weird. He's got a TV.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what do you think he watches?
Yeah.
Do you think he watches, like, The Honeymooners?
I don't know. Do you think he
guess so.
watches like Howdy Doody and he's like, God, I can't believe I survived that blast.
Maybe he watches The Fugitive.
Yeah. Is that old enough? He can watch
Not
Alfred
quite.
Hitchcock Presents.
Oh, sure. Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
I'm
Or
surprised
that
they
might be-
didn't have that in there. That Spielberg, because he likes to do these sort of self-referential stuff. I'm
Yeah.
surprised that
Yeah.
didn't make it
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
When does your wife have a look of both pride and panic on her face?
Honey, I got a new mug. It's got Han Solo on one side, but then it's got Spock on the other. Isn't that crazy? We could throw away like one of our, you know, Crate and Barrel mugs, right, to make room for this in the cupboard.
I don't see any pride in that look, Tom.
No,
No, not really.
panic.
Yeah, it's mostly panic.
Yeah.
Maybe that's my pride that I project onto her.
Can I make a overall sort of thought I had on this one of the
Yes.
sort of putting this on a, you know, over a Bunsen burner and distilling what's wrong with this movie, because I've been thinking I've been thinking too much about it, especially since, you know, Pete asked me to do the show again, and I obliged, and I watched it, and this is going to sound kind of pretentious, but you bear with me because it makes sense. That Spielberg's really had two careers in his time. And he was, the first half of his career, he was Spielberg, the movie maker, the greatest crowd-pleasing movie maker we've ever seen.
Mhm.
And that was what his heart and soul was in, those crowd-pleasing films. And you got the sense that when he dipped his toe into adult filmmaking, it was more like, I know this is what I should be doing. I should be doing films like The Color Purple or Empire of the Sun. And not that those are bad movies, but it's so clear that his talent was creating, you know, Jaws, Close Encounters, E.T., Raiders, and to the point where he created a whole genre. It could say Steven Spielberg presents and hand it off to Joe Dante or Robert Zemeckis to direct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then in 1993, it collided. Like he did his last great escapist film was Jurassic Park. And then he finally clicked as a established dramatic serious filmmaker with Schindler's.
Mm-hmm.
And then he took a few years off. And when he came back, he was Spielberg the filmmaker. And all of his best movies he's made since have been from an adult who wants to make adult fare, not pornography, but films for grown-ups. Because he's a father and a grandfather, and he's more interested in films like, every really good film he's made since then has been like Private Ryan or Lincoln, or I happen to really like Bridge of Spies, and I thought the Post was a good movie, and Catch Me If You Can, and these were all films that were a grown-up made those films. And every time he went back to doing escapist films, it reminded me of when Talking Heads reunited at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame concert, and they hadn't played together in like 15 years, and it showed. And it's like, The Lost World, or, I forgot I saw Ready Player One while I was watching Ready Player One. And, Tintin. And it's like, even the grown-up films he made that didn't quite work, like Amistad or War Horse, those at least were interesting. He was trying stuff. You could tell his heart was in that. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm supposed to do this, right. And it was never more clear than this is a tired grandfather who is doing this film because I feel like this is what you want to see, I guess. This is me playing the hits. This is the Stones playing, Jumpin' Jack Flashes, octogenarians. And his heart is clearly in all these other films. And you see this, there's something lifeless and limp about this movie, which came out the same year as The Dark Knight and as the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Iron Man. And it was like, hey, the people who do the escapist stuff, you've passed the baton. Their heart's into it. Your heart is much more interesting when you're doing Lincoln, which is.
Do we know why he decided to do Indy 5?
I
don't
know.
I thought that what if it's maybe it's a mea culpa?
Yeah.
Maybe, but
because Last Crusade was kind of a mea culpa.
But he said something. He said something interesting when he did, they did some sort of promotional thing from the set at Comic-Con where they showed where Karen Allen and Ray Winstone and Shia LaBeouf and Spielberg and Harrison Ford were on the set saying, hey, we're making the new movie. And Spielberg said something, we're doing this film, like pointing to the crowd, for you. We're trying to make the film that we think you would really like. And that's not his mentality that he used to have, which was, I'm going to do the film that I want to make, that I want to see. And there's a big difference between I want to see Raiders and I think you want this, right? And he would much rather do Bridge of Spies. And frankly, it's like, Stephen, other people have got this covered. You're doing interesting films. You're a grandfather. This is a young man's game, the escapist films that you're clearly not interested in doing anymore. And man, when you look at the action scenes in this film, this scene with Jim Broadbent in the hallway is as thrilling as any of the action scenes in this film. And that's not because this scene's super exciting.
Right.
So that's my little thesis I've done on the career of Spielberg, that this is Spielberg the filmmaker trying to go, am I still the movie maker? Am I still, and he owes us
I like
nothing.
Tintin, but you're not wrong.
I like Tintin better than this film, and I liked, Minority Report I thought was okay, but again, and War of the Worlds had its moments, but just no one thinks of them on the same light as those other films, as like Close Encounters or E.T. or Jaws. But in terms of his dramas, Lincoln and Schindler's List and you would put Private Ryan up there with his best films.
Yeah.
And that's a grown-up made that film.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's just my take. And this is him trying to recapture his youth, and that's sometimes this film is a cinematic comb over.
And then maybe Indy 5 will just be combing it over in the other direction or something.
Oh, God.
We'll
No one wants to see Indy 5. You don't. No one
kinda
really
true.
wants to.
I do.
Are we allowed to say
Wait,
that?
I'm gonna pull a Pete Mummert here. I want to see Indy 5.
Thank you, Jerry.
God.
I think because
Why?
I'm a masochist.
Yeah. Not because you think it's going to be good.
Did anyone want a new Mad Max movie?
No, maybe that's what this movie is so milquetoast that I'm thinking, if Indy 5 is really bad, I feel like it'll just go, it won't necessarily get worse. I'll just be like,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Careful.
because it's just
Careful
like,
what you say.
it
Careful
goes
what
down
you
a
say.
click more. Well, it goes down a click more, and you go, "Oh, I really just don't know why they did that."
I
But it
don't
could
think he's
be
going to
really
pull a
good.
Fury Road out of his butt. I don't think.
No,
that's
I
gonna
really
happen.
don't. I really don't.
I don't know.
And by the
I
way,
think he's-
there is something bizarre about Harrison Ford's career right now, that he is being dragged reluctantly to every film he did. Like, what is it going to be? Working Girl 2 and Witness 2 and
Yeah.
Air Force 2. What be more of these?
But this
films?
one he's excited about, I've heard.
Yeah, he was
He's
excited
always liked
about.
Indy. He's
He
always
was
liked
excited
Yeah, he's
about
always liked
Crystal
Indy.
Skull. He
Yeah,
was
that's
excited
what's
about Crystal
weird.
Skull too. Remember? I mean, he called it's going to be a dynamite film, is what he said in that
Yeah, he was
thing he
excited.
did
He's a
for.
salesman.
Yeah, but it's no. I mean, leave it alone.
I believe
Spielberg.
that he has fun making the movies and is glad to be
Yeah.
Great,
glad
then go
to
on
be
a
Indiana
vacation
Jones
and have
again.
fun.
I
Yeah,
saw my
but it
summer
doesn't
vacation.
mean
I'm not
it's a
gonna make
good
everybody watch
movie.
my slides.
Yeah.
I'm-
It doesn't make it a good movie. True.
I'm sure the Cannonball Run was the most fun experience in the world making it. And we're kind of,
This movie is it's just completely forgettable. We knew this was going to happen. We
I like
knew
it
this
when it
was
was
going to
forgettable.
happen.
yeah,
We
it's
did.
totally
We knew
forgettable.
this was going to happen. Yeah.
An Indiana Jones film
we're
is
kicking it,
boring and
but-
forgettable.
That right there is an achievement, isn't it? They said it
what,
couldn't
Sully?
be done.
I'm glad that I'm glad that you're on this week. No, we needed some of this. The movie needs to take its its wallops. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
It-
praise
yeah.
it when it's good. We
Yeah.
pat it on the back. But yeah.
I
Well, listen,
don't know.
Sully, thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us this week.
It was fun.
As Jerry says, we needed this boost of your energy and your point of view, your film loving and your film hating.
And look at it. It's an interesting autopsy. I mean, anyone can watch and praise Raiders left and right, but to sort of say, here's what's going wrong here. I mean, I think that it was fascinating to watch it again 11 years later. But keep in
Mhm.
mind, anyone who wants a Indy 5, he's 11 years older than he was in this film.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah.
just looking to see what they'll do with it. And
Yeah.
and
not.
I love how Tommy, you keep forgetting
What?
the missive that's coming through the wire.
Oh God! Oh yeah! I mean, yay!
This just in from Professor Christy Porter. It's a good one too. Are there any watermarks from highball glasses on the piano?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
I'm not
Like, what
watching
type
in
of house
HD,
does
so I don't
what
know.
type of house does Indy keep? And I'm going to say no. I don't think there are any watermarks on the piano. I think Indy's a little bit of a neat freak.
He can at least get out a coaster when he needs
It's
to.
Jim
Yeah.
Broadbent's house. He's living in Jim Broadbent's house.
I think you're right. I think he's living in Jim Broadbent's house.
And he's got enough respect for him that he's
Yeah.
not going to slob up his
Yeah.
piano.
Yeah.
Actually that's like one of the main things we learned this week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He forced this movie to make just a little bit more sense.
Yeah. Yep.
Good for us. Well, thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Tom.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't fishing for that, Pete, but thank you. Everybody, we hope you had fun this week. Please join us on Monday. And in the meantime, if you're not already over supporting us at patreon.com/Indiana Jones Minute, you can go over there and for some help supporting the show, you can get access to our weekend show, Anything Goes, where we discuss other movies, we discuss some indie comics, we discuss whatever's going on in our lives. It's a little fireside chat with your buddies when we're not doing Indiana Jones stuff. So yeah, join us over there. Join us on Facebook at our group over there is Indiana Jones Minute and the Listeners Crusade. All your friends are there, all your new friends who you haven't met yet. And we will be here with you on Monday for minute 28 of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Bamons! To express deep grief or distress, to regard with displeasure.
Which is exactly my review for this film.